as GEBE could not, to this day, assure the government of their ability to secure financing for this on their own. Given the urgency of this issue affecting both our residents, businesses, and visitors, discussions with the Netherlands led to a possible solution that allowed this allocation in the budget. To make it clear, the Netherlands was not initially in favor of this solution, as it is a man-made problem. However, once they understood the disastrous effects it could have on St. Martin, they agreed to support this approach. Although the generators will take approximately 18 to 24 months to construct, it is essential they be purchased sooner rather than later, as the longer we delay in ordering them, the longer it will take for them to arrive on St. Martin. The government, this government, will not stand by and watch our residents, businesses, and guests suffer. Action must be taken. Therefore, solutions have been explored to address this matter at hand. The generators will be owned by the government and leased to GEBE, with the terms and structure of the lease agreement to be made final and agreed upon with GEBE. The terms to be agreed upon with GEBE regarding the leasing of the generators will be communicated to Parliament. To be very clear, if GEBE can confirm to the government today that they can finance the purchase of the generators independently and provide factual documentations to support this and not transfer the burden to the consumer, please rest assured and trust that we will not pursue this loan. It is not the government's wish to take on this financial responsibility. Rather, it is a solution to address an urgent problem affecting our residents, businesses, and visitors on St. Martin, which have gone on for far too long. Furthermore, 15 million guilders has been set aside for the construction of a new building that is designated for the Mental Health Foundation, which is co-financed project by the NRPB. An additional 6.1 million is earmarked for the financial system to be financed through the TWO. And lastly, 18 million guilders has been included for the sewage network, which will be financed through the trust fund. For all new investments planned for 2024, a loan of 133.2 million need to be acquired, which brings me to my next and final slide. At the beginning of the year, the total amount of loans, or more accurately, outstanding long-term debt, was approximately 889 million. Over the course of the year, as previously mentioned, we will need to acquire a loan of 133.2 million, while repayments due in 2024 total to 18.4 million. This will leave the country with a long-term debt of approximately 1 billion at the end of this year, with a debt to GDP ratio of approximately 32%. In conclusion, as Minister of Finance, I will remain focused on ensuring the long-term financial health of the country, addressing both immediate needs and future aspirations. Finally, collaboration with stakeholders and maintaining transparency in our fiscal management will be critical in overcoming the challenges we face. I am committed to fostering a culture of accountability and progress as we work to strengthen our country's financial position. Thank you all for your attention, and I look forward to addressing any questions you may have.
Thank you, Minister of Finance, for that presentation. Now, in the first meeting, public meeting of Parliament, to address the proposed budget amendment 2024 as received from the government of St. Martin. At this time, I look at my speakers list where members of Parliament would request to speak, and I give the floor to MP Melissa Gumbs. MP Gumbs, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Good morning to yourself, my colleague members of Parliament, the Minister and her support staff, and those joining us online or via radio. Madam Chair Lady, we're here, as you mentioned, to begin and hopefully soon complete the public handling of this budget amendment for the 2024 budget. I don't have any questions in this first round regarding this amendment, and I'm instead looking forward to the 2025 budget coming to us. I do have several comments, though, based on the answers we've received and in general my sentiments about this budget amendment and the budget 2024 in total. This 2024 budget, Madam Chair Lady, was passed in March by this Parliament, and while I indeed vote for this budget, I expressed several concerns about inclusions that were made in it. Namely, I cautioned about including once again the tourist tax that to date has no legal basis to exist or to be charged, and I additionally expressed concern about the inclusion of expected revenue for the sale of some shares of Winair. While yes, budgets predominantly hold projections, you won't normally see projections based on things that are still at concept stage. I've made the comparison in interviews and such to a corporation, Sony for example, and that there are no revenue projections included for a PlayStation until they have a proof of concept and the hardware has been tested and retested. For public sector, whether it's a new tax or a sale of a government asset, that proof of concept becomes what's the legal basis, or what stage of discussion are you at. And we now see, based on CFT's reaction to this budget and the existence of this amendment today, that my concerns and comments were, if you pardon the pun, on the money, especially when it comes to the sale of Winair shares, which form the bulk of the income that the country and the public was expecting to see. I expressed concern that we were looking at a budget that included those sale of those shares when we had no real answer to what stage of the discussion are you at. Because in the CC for the handling of the overall 2024 budget, the then Minister of Finance stated that government and Winair were in early stages of due diligence. But with the CFT's reaction and their recommendations, now we find out that we were not even at the due diligence stage. We were at the very start of the sales dance. And while it's unfortunate that the dance itself has been cancelled for now, I do want to restate, Madam Chair, through you, my support for divestment as a suitable course for the country to explore. Like I said in March, there is a certain sense of pride that comes with complete ownership of a thing, but ownership of the thing comes with responsibility. And responsibility, when you're a country, is expensive. I still believe in, as they would say, the spirit of what divestment of any government-owned asset would bring, including fresh eyes, innovative approaches to management and operations, and a level of oversight and sharpened corporate governance that we are still aspiring to. When done responsibly and efficiently, divestment could bring much-needed new blood into the economy and into a company's operations. So I would urge the government to not shut the door entirely on the concept. And I am happy that the Minister has expressed that the legislation for this tourist tax is of a priority for her, so that the next time we see it, it's actually justified to have it in the budget. Overall, as we look across ministries, this budget amendment reinforces the notion, Madam Chair Lady, of having to tighten our belts and to think not just outside the box, but beyond it and all other shapes when it comes to addressing some of our more distressing financial issues. This is particularly necessary when we look at a ministry like Education, Culture, Youth and Sport. ECYS does not generate revenue per se, and so is usually the first to be asked to make cuts, and indeed it suffers first when the country is not performing well financially. But at the same time, it carries the heaviest burden of shaping the hearts and minds of those meant to carry this very same country into the future. To my opinion, it will take serious collaboration, commitment, and political will to make what promises to be difficult and unpopular decisions to improve public income and control public spending. And it will also take structured, effective, and transparent public-private partnerships with reputable partners that can be held to account to address many of the issues facing this and future governments. And I do hope for the 2025 budget, and I trust that we will see realistic policy, realistic projections that are justified to be in there, even if they are difficult statements to make to the public, and that we build our budgets and what we would like to see grounded in reality and what has a basis and a justification to be there. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll yield the rest of my time and I await the second round. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Marinka Gumbs, for that contribution to the discussion. And I now give the floor to MP Luc Mercelina. MP De Wever, you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady. Good morning to you, my colleagues, the Minister of Finance and her support team, and staff, all those viewing and listening. Madam Chair Lady, thank you so much. I don't really have much to say. I do want to point out the fact that I'll keep reminding people that when I make decisions in here, they're always from a financial nature because that's what I know. I don't know everything about finance, but that's what I know. And back in March, I did not agree with this budget. I did not approve this budget because of the fact that while I know that a budget is somewhat a wish list, the budget has to be based on some reality that's also based on things that are in the works, making it plausible that it could be collected and done in the year. And just like MP Gumbs said beforehand, she referred to the 2 items in the budget, which is what I specifically did not vote to approve, which was the Winair shares and the tourist tax. Now, the fact that we are coming back for a budget amendment because we're making it more realistic, especially because those 2 items are removed from it, I didn't need CFT to tell me that back in March. That was all on my own brain and my own capability of knowing that I could not support something. And now, lo and behold, we come back to this budget amendment, CFT is telling us it's not realistic, and then it's subsequently removed. So I appreciate the fact that we are now dealing with an absolute a realistic budget for this year. Does not mean that I am against the items that I voted against. Once they come and we're in the process of legislation, we are in further dialogue with Winair on where we are with shares, then I'm peachy keen to support that. One item that I had that gave me reservation, the Minister of Finance has actually very much clarified it for me, because the only thing that gave me any reservation right now in this budget was the 75 million loan for GB. And the reason that I had issues with it is because I didn't know anything about it. But the Minister of Finance clearly stated, we only have this in there as a backup plan. So there is nothing attached to it based on now what I hear that gives me any pause for hesitation. What I also want to state is this is put in to the budget as a capital expenditure. We have no expenses coming from the capital expenditure, which means that I am actually perfectly fine with this. On top of that, what I want to mention, though, however, is the fact that I take notice that in this budget, there is a significant update done on the government-related entities. And GB was the first one that I had questions on, which has now been removed by the Minister of Finance, who has given me a little bit more comfort now. But I would like to move on to TELEM. So it's either I tend to keep my questions always in the Central Committee, very, very, very technical, very financial. For this one, what I do want to know is that we are about, today is the 29th of October. We are about 2 days away from the last group of employees that would be terminated or made redundant. I would like an update on what is happening with TELEM employees and the last remaining, because as I remembered, and I stand to be corrected by either the Minister of Finance or the Prime Minister when they come in to give the answers, it is my understanding that the first group of people that were made redundant, after that was done, there was a technical team that was kept on. And now this technical team is going. So my question is, what happens after this technical team goes October 31st? Do I have to be concerned that we have a going concern issue with TELEM when it comes to the ability to supply internet? And it's not a yes or no question only. It's a specific question as to what is happening with the technical team. Are they going to remain on? Are they extended? Are they going to be made redundant? I just need a little bit of an understanding of what does the future hold, or what the future holds for TELEM as it stands today. Besides that, I do have one question based on the presentation from the Minister of Finance. If the Minister of Finance has any issues with the percentage of GDP taken into consideration, considering a lot of the times we usually have some feedback from groups like SHTA that say that, okay, the information coming in from the Ministry of TEAT is overstating GDP. So I want to make sure that the Minister of Finance is aware of that conversation, and if there is any overstating of the figures that is coming out of it. I will also reserve the majority of my questions for the second round. Thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Ludmila de Wever, for your contribution, questions, and comments. And I now